Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today for this landscape demonstration. My reference picture is from Chaco National Park, and I did a very rough hand sketch. This is going to be my focal point, and I planning to add all the texture on the ground. I haven't decided what is happening to the clouds, but the sky is too busy the way it is. So let's get started. I didn't mask anything, and I'm gonna start adding paint with a round brush, and I'm gonna start right here. I'm adding a little bit of water. I don't want to soak the paper, and this is a window, so I didn't feel the need to put masking, but you could, so you don't lose the sky that you can see through the window. Since this reference photo, the location is very rough in terms of vegetation and rocks, I'm not too worried this time with the lines. If it was another kind of landscape, I would probably be careful to remove all the lines first. So I'm just adding a little bit of water. I don't want to soak the paper altogether. And I will start with raw sienna on this structure. I just dump in color. The paper is wet, but not soaking. And right now I'm just adding this raw sienna. Very quickly to this structure. And right now it's approaching, and you're gonna see why I'm not so worried about doing a uniform wash. I just want so I'm gonna add a little bit of blue right here. A little bit of cobalt blue. And I'm going to use another kind of salt. I'm using Himalaya. It doesn't matter, you can use any kind of coarse salt, but I wanted this to have a dimension rather than just put the refined salt. And I'm just dropping. As you can see, there are little pieces of rocks on my painting right now, and I think they give a very interesting dimension to a new texture. And right now I'm gonna use a nail tool to start creating the illusion that this wall is made of stacked stones, like little bricks. If you never seen this before, I am hurting the paper a bit. Actually, I'm hurting the paper a lot. And I just realized that I want a little more paint. And I'm adding to this part here that is going to be shadowed. You can choose to do your stones with the brush instead of with this tool, and paint the negative, which I'm gonna do in this part, bottom part. But this is the top part. I am just scratching the paper, and I'm doing horizontal markings, and I'm also gonna do vertical markings. And what I'm trying to do here is to create this illusion. Same thing here. Don't lose your boundaries. Don't splash paint everywhere. And now I'm doing some markings vertically on the paper. Again, I'm trying to create the illusion of stacked stones. And I'm just recovering some of the splashing. Again, I continue to do this slowly. And step by step is showing me some illusion of bricks. And you just take your time. Add as many strokes as you want, or as little. If you don't want to do this, don't do it. Just go around with your brush and paint a negative space. And you can do some other markings here. I'm gonna do the same thing on this structure here, even though I don't have much paint on the paper now. I can always add some. Make sure that it makes sense. Adding a little more of Sienna. Alright, I'm moving now to this part of the painting. This is gonna dry a bit. When it dries, we come back. I am planning to, don't forget this little part here that is from the landscape, a little bit of Sienna. My horizon line is gonna cross this way. I'm gonna pass through this window. And this path I added only to create a more dynamic scenery. And I'm changing brushes. Just just because I want to put more water on the paper quickly. I want more water and more paint on this area quickly. And I'm gonna also do this on the cliff. And once I have water on the paper, the clock is ticking because the paper is drying and I want it to dry in a certain way. And that's why many times I prefer to paint on dry paper. At least is one problem less that I have to face. That is to handle the paper drying. And I'm dropping some greens all over the place. Not too much worried right now where they are. Don't forget to add some here. If you feel like your green is too green for the landscape, just add a little bit of orange or a little bit of red to neutralize it a bit. Again, you just covering as fast as you can. And I'm gonna do another trick with, okay, I almost forgot to raw Sienna again on this cliff. Some burnt sienna. Actually, I'm gonna put some burnt sienna down here too. All right. I'm gonna go back to my nail tool here. I'm gonna do a little bit of scratching with the side. And just, again, I'm hurting the paper. So, and I'm doing this this technique just for you guys. Most of the watercolor painters don't really like to hurt the paper, but I'm showing that's possible. And you may find it interesting to use, especially for landscapes, because when you're painting outside, the light is always changing. You don't have much time. And then it's where scratching becomes interesting too, because you can just add information to your painting without worrying too much. And I'm just doing random markings on the floor. Maybe they are rocks, maybe they are not rocks. That's something we don't need to decide right away what is what. And again, I'm gonna use my coarse salt. Whoops. The interesting thing about using salt is not to splash all over the place. It's just to control where you dropping them, whether it's coarse or a refined version. You just have to make sure they are where you want them to be. And have some patience because this is gonna take a while to dry. I'm gonna do similar things here with the shape, and I'm gonna use a larger spatula. Again, this is just one possible artistic interpretation of these cliffs. And all right, I think I like this enough. Add some burn umber. And again, I'm going to disturb this surface with water. This is pure water. I'm not adding any values right now. I want the watercolor to work for me. I'm putting some Sienna on this path. Oops, no splashing on the sky. I want my sky clean. The watercolor and my salt, they are working for me. And let me just make sure. When you're doing this in particular, you need to be careful. I'm adding a little bit of refined salt on the bottom part. Yeah, I know, I'm really pushing for a very busy ground. And I'm gonna start working on my sky, my overwash. Paper towel to take the excess of water, and I'm gonna add as quickly as I can paint on the dry paper. This is French Ultramarine Blue. Remember always to make your sky darker as it goes higher in the zenith. And I'm gonna add a little bit of Cobalt Blue. And I'm gonna go back here. And the reason I decided to use a dry brush technique for the sky is that I want these irregularities to show, so it gives some illusion of clouds because the sky is not solid blue. So it needs to be interesting too, like everything else. I just don't want the texture to compete against each other. I'm just adding paint. And I'm softening a little bit the edges. At this point you can hear it, how you can hear the noise that my brush is doing on the paper. It's really, really dry. And you just want to make sure you leave enough indication that there is something going on the sky. Make sure you move a little bit the paint. Don't worry at this point because it's gonna dry a little lighter. And if you want to soften a little bit, that's a good timing for a little cleanup. And note, I don't know if the resolution is enough, but right here there is no paint. There's no water either. So I'm taking a small brush, a number 2, and I'm just want to make sure that I'm adding water here. I'm not even worried about putting any color. I don't need to put color here. And that's the time you can make some adjustments. Some cleaning up. See this area, since I scraped and I hurt the paper, some of the blue is sedimenting into it. If you don't want, my case I don't want, you need to clean. And this is gonna dry now, and we come back as soon as dry.